All right. Aloha kakahiaka, everyone. Good morning. Ohayo gozaimasu. Thank you all for joining, making time out of your family time, because the weekend, quite frankly, is the time that you spend with your significant others, your loved ones, your family, your friends, after a week long of hard work. But each day is work, depending on who you talk to. But nonetheless, it is a weekend, and so we want to respect your time. And thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful Saturday morning. As I mentioned earlier, we have wonderful leaders lined up. And once again, we're represented by women today. Our two presenters are women, as David, myself, and all the other men on this call. They do make us look better because not only of their natural beauty, but because they are smarter than we are. So David knows that we all married up. David definitely married up, but nonetheless, they are powerful leaders that we have today. To start us off, I will introduce our first presenter. She hails from Mexico, and she is one of our legendary A13s. Now, Noemi Garcia, as a lot of you already know who she has been one of our outstanding leaders from the very first day years ago that she joined ACTIVZ. She is, her background is in education. She's a mathematician. So yes, 1 + 1 = 2, but that's the extent of my knowledge in math. That's why she is a wonderful presenter, because she knows how to teach. She loves learning. It's a lifelong passion of hers. She's married to a wonderful, wonderful man. They have 2 daughters, I think. But she always, Griselda, you're shaking. I think she has more kids, right? What is 2 sons? Yes, okay, that's what I figured. 2 sons. Um, but nonetheless, because English is not her first language, she always has some hesitation to share. But her English, just like Griselda's, is much better than mine's. We got to give them credit. But the reason why I know those who have always joined our active schools, this is about the third time that she's going to be presenting. And each time the message is so great that she could be speaking in Spanish, English, Japanese, or whatever it is. Um, Spanish and whatnot, and we still would understand her message, because one, it is very simple, and second, is very passionate and powerful. And so to kick us off with our meeting today is our A13, Noemi Garcia. Now, she sent me her presentation. It was pre-recorded, um, and so I will play her presentation.
Hi, good morning. I'm so grateful to be here in this sunny day, this sunny Saturday. I'm so humble. Thank you for inviting me. And I'm going to talk to you about building an effective organization. My name is Noemi Garcia. I live in Villahermosa, Mexico. I'm 42 years old. And I want to tell you how I started my business. When someone invited me to doing network marketing, I was working as a school teacher, as a math teacher, because that's my major, math. Um, and at the same time, my husband lost his job. And that was like a red flag for me, because I realized I didn't have a plan B. I realized that if something happened to him, I would not be able to survive with 2 little children, because I had 2 babies. So when someone invited me to do this this business, I said, okay, maybe this is my opportunity. I have to try this. I have to see if I'm good at it. And I thank every day this friend of mine, Lilia, because she's the reason I'm here. And I want to thank God because nothing would be possible without him. So let me get to the presentation, building an effective organization. Okay, so we all know the system. We know how to invite, we know how to present, how to make follow-ups, and how to enroll. This is in our guide success, and it's just about reading it every day and knowing it. We're supposed to learn this in just 1 week. So I'm going to give you some of my tips. I want to suggest you to have a database, a 200 people database, and also use a calendar and a daily planner. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing that we're going to use those for. The calendar, you're going to put it somewhere when you can't see it, and you are going to write on it the daily meetings in all the countries. Okay, so when you are calling people, you can just look at your calendar and see what are the meetings for the day or for the week or for the month, and you don't miss anything. On the planner, you're going to write the things that you actually did. And what I'm saying is, you don't want to put on your planner what you think you are going to do on that day. You're going to write on your planner how many people you called and their names. You can write, I called Stu, I called Ryan, I called Angie, I called Noemi. And that way, at the end of the week, you can look at your planner and you can actually see if you made some progress and why you made that progress. If you're not getting paid, you can look at your calendar and see why what are those activities that you want to emphasize on. Okay, and the cards, I think this is a very easy way to make reminders. Every night before you go to sleep, you write on the card 3 names of the people you're going to call the next day. Okay, so you don't have to spend every day all this time thinking, oh my God, who am I going to call today? I didn't meet new people today. You just have it in your card and you wake up and you're ready to go. Okay, so let me tell you about the phases of the leadership. There are 3 phases. One is to learn, and that phase we have to get through it in 1 week. You have to learn what we talked about, how to enroll, how to present, etc. And then when as soon as you enroll your first person, you want to teach them. What are you going to teach them? How to invite, how to present, how to enroll, how to make follow-ups. Okay, you have to teach that person because they are trusting you. You gave them your word. And the 3rd phase is teach to teach. Okay, as soon as your distributor signs up someone else, you have to teach them how to teach all those steps. How to invite, how to present, how to follow up. Okay, so maybe you want to think about what's the phase that you are in right now. Because if you're stuck on phase number 1, let me tell you, you're not growing as a leader. We cannot stay at learning, and then don't teach our team. We have to teach everyone and then teach them to teach. Okay, so if we take that 200 database that we talked about, let me tell you some statistics about network marketing. Okay, only 10% of the people that you actually call sign up, and 20% of those people that already signed up are going to duplicate. So how many people should you talk to? Remember we talked about that 200 people database? Okay, so if you actually call 200 people, if you make 200 presentations and 10% of them are signing up, that means 20 people are signing up. And if 20% of those people duplicate, that means only 4 of them are going to have the same vision as you and are going to make the same things that you're doing. See? 200 presentations lead to 20 people signing up, lead to 4 great leaders. Okay, so how would that look like in your team? Okay, I love doing the circles and stuff. Okay, so you make 200 presentations, and these are the 20 people that sign up. Okay, and then only the orange ones are the ones that are duplicating. Okay, you have 4 builders. This means that only 4 people of those 200 that you called are going to actually be calling people, be doing presentations, are doing follow-ups, are enrolling some other people. So how can you reach the masses? Because to get to A16, and that's where we all want to go, we have to make some sacrifices. We have to lead by the example. We have to be willing to do things that no one else are willing to do. So these are some other tips. Make it duplicable. What does it mean? It means that you have to make it simple, so simple that anyone can do it. So simple that a young person or an older person can do it. So simple that everyone can say all the words. If I talk about superoxide dismutase, or I don't know, well, I'm just gonna say it in Spanish, glutathione, superoxide dismutasa, catalasa, those are hard words, and not everyone is going to learn them. So you have to make it simple, okay? Take the right attitude. As a leader, are you complaining? Are you always, in Mexico we say, are you always looking at the black bean in the white rice? That means, are you always, if everything's perfect, you are only paying attention to the things that you don't like? Because you don't like them, it doesn't mean they are wrong. It just means that you don't like them. But are you really focusing on that bean, or are you focusing on the rice? Okay, no excuses. We don't have time. Can you relate to that? I don't have time. I don't have time. I'm busy. I'm busy. I have a mother. I have a father. I have a husband. I have the kids. I'm ill. I have work. My dog, whatever. We all have the same 24 hours to do the job. And we all have lives. We all have things to do. So don't start making excuses, because if you make excuses, guess what your team is going to be doing? They're going to be making a lot more excuses than you, because you're teaching them all the excuses. And have a clear vision. Where are you going? Where do you want to go? What do you want to achieve in short term or medium term or long term? What's your vision? Are you focusing on health? Are you focusing on helping people make a living? It doesn't matter. There's no wrong or right, but you need to have a clear vision, because you need to know what you are going to do. So to make your vision clear, you have to make numbers. And I know it, don't worry, you don't have to be a math major. You just need a cell phone with a calculator, okay? So you have to make your annual goal, your annual goal, your quarterly goal, and your March goal, because we are in March. We're just starting March. It's okay. So let's get your annual goal, vision, and think about where you want to be on March of 2023. Where do you want to be? Do you want to be an A6? Do you want to be an A8, an A10, A11, A12? What's it going to be? Okay. So if you already decided where you want to be in 1 year, take that in a half. Okay, divide it in 2, and then you have your biannual goal. Okay, March. On September, that will give you your September goal. Where are you going to be on September? Okay, and then you take your September goal, that's your biannual goal, and you take it by half. And then you have your June goal. You have your June goal. So you have now your quarterly goal, and then divide it by 3. So you know what you want to achieve in March, April, May, June, July, and every month you already know what you have to do, what you want to do, what you're willing to do to achieve your annual goal, because it's not going to rain. Well, in Mexico, we say it's not going to fall as rain. You have to work for it. You have to be sure where are you going to, or how are you going to find those 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes to make those extra 2 calls every day, or 3 or 4 or 5. I don't know what do you want to achieve. So a leader knows. Oh, remember, because you don't, now you are learning, but from today afternoon, you will have to get this information and teach your team. You cannot stay at learn. You have to teach. So you need to help. A leader knows how to help their team with monthly planning. Today or tomorrow or on Monday, but preferably today, you're going to call your team and tell them, I want to help you get your monthly plan, your March plan. What do you want to achieve? And you're going to do the same thing. Okay, you're going to ask them, where do you want to be March 2023? And then take your September goal, and then take your June goal, and then divide it by 3 and have your March goal. Okay, so you know how are you going to walk through your annual goal. Okay, or run. I don't know if you're going to work or run. And then you have to make growth strategies. That means if you want to be, I don't know, maybe an A4 this month, take numbers. How many people do you have to sign up this month to get the volume to make an A4? And saying that, now that you know only 10% of people are going to sign up, how many calls are you going to make, or you need to make this week and next week and the week after that, so that you can sign in the people you need to get to A4 or A3 or A2 or A6 or whatever is your goal in March, okay? And you have to call each and every one of your team, I mean, by your direct distributors, and say, okay, where do you want to get this month? What's that volume? How are you going to make it? Did you make your math? How many people do you want to sign up? How many people are you going to call? And then do it in all your lines. Remember, you need at least 4 people that are duplicating, and you cannot stop making your calls every day until you get at least 4 people. And guess what? Those people may actually not stay in your team. So I would recommend never stop calling. And then a leader also knows how to promote events. Promote is not just putting on the chat, okay, tomorrow we have founders call. You have to actually call the people. You have to tell them why it's important for them, not for you, for them to get into those meetings. When it doesn't matter if it's in your city, it's in Zoom, but they have to be in the events. And I don't know if I should say this. I don't know if you know, but I think this year we're going to have, I'm sorry about this, we're going to have a big event in America. So you really need to tell your people why it's important to go to those events. Okay, so what about our monthly plan? Monthly planning, it means that you need to get in a 200 personal volume auto-ship. Remember, we have better prices and more free product, okay? And see, this is a secret that Ryan told me some years ago. And he told me the people that earn the most in network marketing is not the people that have bigger teams. It's the people that have a team that buys the most products. What I'm getting at is you can buy one link every month. And you are going to be duplicating 60 and 60 and 60 and 60 in volume, $60, right? But if people are taking trifecta, you're going to be 130 and 130 and 130 and adding 130 by each people that are using our products, so using our technology. So it's easier to be adding 130 in personal volume than being 60 back 60 back 60. It means that you can either have 100 people taking one link, or you can have 50 people or less, 40 people taking trifecta. Which one is easier? And that's what you want to tell your team. It's easier if we have our 2000 PV auto ship. We're going to work less. This is a smart business. This is not about working more. This is about working smarter, okay? So saying that, if you know how many people you have in your team, you know what rank you're going to achieve. And you have to call everyone and say, okay, John, you have 20 people. If everyone gets in auto ship, you are going to have, I don't know, 4,000 in volume. Okay, so you also, and then you can establish the missing volume. Okay, you only need 1,000 more to get to the next level, to the next rank. That's your growth strategy. If we all have our auto ships planned for day 5 of each month, on day 5, you know the certain volume that you have, the sure volume, I don't know how to say this, but you know how much volume you're going to have for sure in the month. And then you're only going to make strategies for the missing volume to get a better rank. Okay, and that's how we can make our team and our distributors to get to a better rank every month. Okay, so let me finish with this, telling you that a leader is someone who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. It's not about the thing you say, it's about what you do, about what you show, about what your team is watching in you. Are you getting into all the events? Are you getting into Zoom meetings? Are you getting into testimonial calls? Are you getting in, I don't know, the weekly calls on Wednesdays? Are you getting more distributors in? Are you in learning mode, or are you in teaching mode? Because that's what you are showing your team. So this was my presentation. I hope you've learned something about this. I hope you enjoy this and have a nice Saturday. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Wow, that was amazing, Noemi. Thank you so much for being our first presenter. I know that, you know, when you listen to this presentation and you hear, have a database of 200 names, that can be scary. But if you look in your phone and if you scroll through your names, I can guarantee you, you have way more than 200 contacts. You probably have close to 500 or 1,000. And for some people, it's in like 5 digits of contacts. So don't let that 200 number scare you. If you just start writing down the list of the people that you know, or if you start going through your phone, you will be amazed at how many people you have to contact and how many people you can put in your database. So don't look at that number and don't think, I don't have 200 contacts. And if that number of 200 scares you, start at 10, start at 15, then grow it to 20, grow it to 50, and pretty soon you're going to have that database of 200. But that database of 200, it's not impossible to get there. And I know that I've seen that number and I thought, wow, that's a big number. That's a lot of people to put down. But if you start at 1, if you go to 5, pretty soon you're going to get to 200. So don't let that scare you. So I get the privilege of introducing our next presenter, and our next presenter is Diane Young, and she is the sweetest, the kindest, and the most grateful person you will ever meet. Every time she calls me, every time I pick up the phone, the first thing she says is, I am so grateful you answered the phone. And that's her personality. But Diane is also a fighter, and she's also a survivor. And it's all of these qualities put together that have made Diane successful in her business. She doesn't give up when she's doing the business. And what is the most important for her is her team. She wants to see her team succeed. She's always grateful, and she always says, I am here because of my team. I am here because so-and-so worked hard. I am here because of all of the work they've done. And I think that's why she is in this business, is because she truly cares about people, and she just wants to see her team successful or to improve their health. So Diane has lived in North Idaho and Spokane for most of her life, but she's no stranger to entrepreneurship. She owned a manufacturing business for 10 years, and she's been a network marketer for most of her life. She loves MLM, and she is certain that ACTIVZ is going to be the legacy that she can hand to her off to her daughter. She is a caregiver. She's a massage therapist. Diane is absolutely incredible, and I am so honored to introduce her today and give her the time. So Diane, I will turn the time over to you.
Oh, thank you so much. My goodness, who is that person? Thanks, Andy. I'm going to lean over here and turn off my heater because it's getting a little warm. So anyway, well, good morning, everyone. It's so exciting to be here. And I do want to thank Angie and Stu and the team for inviting me to speak. It is a privilege and an honor, and I do appreciate it. So of course, I get a little nervous, but I'm going to be the live one today. I'm a little bit of a live wire anyway, as you'll all agree, if you know me. So anyway, I haven't perfected the art of making slides yet. So Derry, I'm going to take you up on that. But for now, I'm going to be doing I have my notes over here. So at times I'll be over here. If I get a little ahead of myself, be patient with me. So what we're going to talk about today, I think, is so important in this day and age, is building trust and building trust in relationships. So I think most of us can agree that there is a lot of mistrust out there and fear. And our brilliant CEO, David Brown, on one of the last calls, corporate Zoom calls, he mentioned about 4 or 5 things that people are very concerned about. So I think it's kind of like the elephant in the room. So with being in business here, what we want to do is we want to build trust, don't we? We want to build trust in those interpersonal relationships, and we do want people to trust us. So some of us have to build that. Some people, you may have already known for a long time, but still it's building trust in the business of ACTIVZ, in the corporation. Now, I have had the privilege of being in a prior company with David Brown and our president, Ryan Thompson. So that's how I was able to jump on board with this day one and fly with it. I mean, like I shared it with many, many friends and family, because I had the confidence and the trust knowing that David and Ryan were going to be there when times got tough. They had my back. They weren't going to get greedy in the future. And, some of you who are just coming on board and didn't have that background, you might not know that, but this is what happens sometimes with these companies. And I know that this is not going to happen with ACTIVZ. So rest assured that we are in the best of hands. Also with Angie, she's on ground floor, man. She's ground central. She's right there working for us and with us. So I love that about this company, and it gives me the utmost confidence to share this company with others. Like I said, I knew that my efforts wouldn't be thwarted, that they would be rewarded, and for a very long time. So what I'm going to go over is, while I'm going over these points that are going to be building trust in not only just your interpersonal relationships, but your relationships with ACTIVZ, I want you to think about that, your relationships with ACTIVZ. Number one, you have a relationship with the corporation. We are independent contractors as distributors. So there's that relationship. As a distributor, you have a relationship. As a leader, you came in, if you signed up there might be some customers on here, and welcome, but if as a distributor, you came in with the intent of sharing this. So you came in as a leader, you're already a leader, even before you sign up your first distributor or customer, right? So you also have that relationship with, some might call it an upline. I like to call it my lead support. I have an incredible lead support. And what I want to say about that is that you have a relationship with them. So also you have a relationship as a part of a team. We're all a team. We're all team actives, but you also have a team once you start a business with ACTIVZ. If you've brought in distributors, you have a team. So you have a relationship with your team. So just think of these relationships as I'm going over how to build trust in those relationships. So there's 3 ways that we can build trust that I'm going to go over. One is ask clarifying questions. The other one is listening to understand. And the other one is be approachable. Like I said, I don't have slides, so you have to take notes. Do it the old-fashioned way. So be approachable is the last one. So I'm going to start with clarifying questions. So there's an idea out there that the questions are more valuable than the answers, and it's embraced. It's embraced in technology, it's embraced in business, and it's a really great idea. Many of the great minds and business people actually embrace this idea. So Einstein was one of them. He used to say, it's all in the questions. So Peter Drucker was another one I found out. He's the one that invented the S-curve. That's another reason why I had the confidence in ACTIVZ, because we had already been through that S-curve. If you don't know what it is, you will soon watching a presentation. But we'd already been through those 4 years, and I knew that we were going to last. It's great company. So I had that confidence. That builds trust and confidence. But Peter Drucker, he said he was actually a master in teaching business and in management of businesses. So he actually said that it's not just the questions that we ask, but it's actually in asking the right questions. So very, very important. So what questions do is they organize the conversation and our thoughts about what we don't know. So that's a big realm out there, isn't it? What we don't know. So when you're talking to a customer or a new distributor, you do want to get to know that person. You want to build a relationship and of trust. And an example that I'm going to give of not knowing somebody is and getting to know them is think of your first love. I know this is a bit odd, but think of your first love. What did you do when you first met that person? And you spent hours and hours and hours of getting to know that person. You could talk to the wee hours of the morning. I have a girlfriend, she's in her 70s. She reconnected with one of her loves when she was 18, and they're getting married next month. But she said they would talk for hours. They're talking continually because they're already, they're getting to know each other again. So it's a very exciting time in a relationship, and consider that that can be an exciting time in your business and in your interpersonal relationships with ACTIVZ. So we never want to stop asking questions. So what happens when we assume that we know that person or the relationship? We stop asking questions, don't we? We just stop asking. So sometimes it can go stagnant. So we just want to keep asking questions. That was my main reason for saying that. Same goes for your customers, your distributors, and your team. Asking clarifying questions. We want to ask to understand. So one of the best questions we can ask is, what do you want? In my preparation for this morning, I actually was doing some morning, my meditation, and came across in the Bible where Jesus, the 2 disciples left John and the Baptist, and they started following Jesus. And what did Jesus do? The first question he asked, he noticed they were following him. He turned around and he said, "What do you want?" I thought that was such a great question. So when my mentor, Trisha, she's constantly asking me to ask my team and my leaders what they want. Very, very important. Now, do you think that Jesus already knew what they wanted? I've always wondered about that. All knowing, but it's very important that we actually speak what we want and ask for it. So what do you want? And not only that, it has them remember why they got in the business. What it sparks that first initial, excitement of when they got in. So have them not only say what they want, have them write it down again. And Naomi did a great presentation on setting goals that way. So the specifics on the numbers and what you need for that. But really, truly, that vision of knowing what you want is so important. So keep asking that question. Okay. Some of the basic questions that we can ask people in general when we're getting to know them, you know, before we ask them to join us in the business is we can evaluate, have them, you know, talk about their own life. So evaluating the situation in their lives and have them talk about that. We'll go into that later. People love to talk about themselves. Number one thing people like to talk about. We can also ask them what's happening in your life. So, you know, that old saying, what's happening? So, so have them talk about what is going on with them, whether it's your current people that are in business with you or the people that you're approaching. So, so you can also probe a little bit more if you didn't understand something. You know, what made you say that, or never assume what, you know, that you understand something. So have them, if you didn't understand something, just have them, you know, go over that a little bit, reiterate that, let me know, dive a little bit deeper, and they will love you for that. They'll really believe that you care about them and their lives. So a couple of specific questions that we can ask for ACTIVZ is once they you know, you think they're ready, and you could, or not when they're ready, actually that's the bottom here, but so what I do is when I'm talking with somebody and I want to approach them, I might ask them, are you open to take a look at a business opportunity? So another one is that I really love is, so are you open to extra streams of income? So who wouldn't be open to that? Now there's some people that might. I had one guy who went into about 2 or 3 different ways that he makes extra income. And then I said, well, this is a little bit different. So can I send, if I sent you a video, would you watch it? So that video is going to explain it a whole lot more than I could. So there's always the other one is if I would you. And that's one of my favorites as well. So the other one is so important is, and some of us are a little leery of this. I don't know why. It's one of my favorite parts is ask for the close. So we want to close that person. And it's simply, you know, hey, let's get started. You know, that's a statement, but that's kind of what I say. Sometimes I don't ask them, are they ready? They have to think about it, but usually they are. So let's just get you signed up. So that's a really important part. So I'm going to the next part of the presentation, and that is listening to understand. So listening to understand is, you know, there's many ways that we can listen, right? We can listen with our ears. We can watch people's body language. If you're deaf, you're going to do maybe sign language. You're going to see that. You can read lips. There's a lot of different ways to listen. But how leaders listen is we listen to understand and not to respond or react. So we don't really want to react while somebody's talking about what's going on with them. And I'll go into that later. But it's just very important. True leaders ask questions and then they listen. So they really just zip it and take in all that information that person's giving them. So you're gonna understand more about that person, what's going on, and by reading them, not just by what they're saying, but really their body language, and not just what they're saying, but how they're saying it. So important. So by doing that, what we're going to do is we're going to make that person feel important. We're going to make that person feel heard. And they are going to know then that you really care about them, and they'll open up even more. Most of us, when we're listening to somebody, what we're really doing is in our mind, we're thinking about what we want to say to them. That's what's rolling around. So we're thinking about our reply, our rebuttal, the information that we want to get across to them. We're really not listening to them. So if you can actually just turn that off it's a skill, and I invite you to practice that skill when you're listening to somebody. Turn that part of your brain off and just really open up your ears and your heart to that person and listen to what they have to say. So one of the things that, you know, in the clarifying questions, people like to talk about themselves. So they'll go on and on. So you really want to listen. So I'm going to use this as an example. I had a girlfriend, I practiced this on her, and she didn't come into the business with me, which kind of surprised me, but not everybody will. And she told me a story after I was done. And she told me a story about how she had someone that she really didn't know very well, invited her to dinner. And they went to dinner, and that person actually went on and on and on about herself. Didn't ever ask my friend Jackie about her life. And Jackie is just such a sweetheart. And she goes, and at the very end of the dinner, she wanted me to join her in a business. So guess what? The answer was no, because she never asked anything about Jackie. She was really just wanting her to get into her business. So there's an example of, you know, you want people to talk about themselves. So you can invite them to do that. That's a really good way to open up and find out more about them. Again, you don't want to go on for hours about, you know, listening, but you can direct that, like I said, with clarifying questions. You can direct the conversation back to your business or, you know, the pertinent information. But anyway, so one of the ways that what is a great way for that person to know, or is another skill to practice after you've listened, is that to mirror back what they say. So you can literally practice that with your family. They'll love you for it. So have a conversation with somebody and then practice mirroring back exactly what they say. What I heard you say was da 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 da. And that's a good way to practice stopping that, trying to get your information to them, just to reiterate what they said to you. And then they will actually feel heard. And when somebody, that can happen in a moment, when somebody really feels heard and gotten and by you, it's such a gift to them. So it's really about them, not about us. Another thing, you can acknowledge them, say, gosh, I thank you for sharing that. I know that wasn't easy to say. Some people talking about their health, it's not easy, but they will open up to you. And then guess what? After we have these conversations, what's going to happen is that you're going to find a need there, aren't you? So, and with ACTIVZ, we can fill financial needs, we can fill health-wise needs. So we have the answers to many of that. So, okay. People really do want to be heard. And the best way is simply by listening. There's a few skills that you can practice. And you, like I said, you'll find a need. So there's a book out there called Emotional Intelligence. And with that, they said that the author said that 20% of your success in life will be by your IQ, how smart we are. I don't even really relate to that, but 80% is emotional intelligence. And that's really how we interact with others. So it's just something to practice. Okay, so now we're going to go into the last one is being approachable, or basically coachable. So being approachable to your friends and family, and so kind of being transparent, but also being coachable by your upline. And actually, you're going to be coachable more by your team if you're looking for feedback. So, and open for feedback. So a couple of ways. Now, this isn't to point fingers to anybody. These are areas that I needed assistance in and that I've been working on myself. So don't think, oh my gosh, she's got my number. I've read these to my daughter and she goes, oh, it sounds like you're pointing fingers, Mom. And I said, no, I'm really not. So one way that you might know that you're not approachable is if you can't remember the last time that somebody gave you feedback. So sometimes it's like bad breath. We're the last to know, right? Like a blind spot. So, or if you have a negative expectation, and sometimes anytime that somebody wants to talk with you, if you're going, if that person calls you and says, oh gosh, I want to talk to you. I had that with a friend the other day. She became a customer. She had heard about the products, then she became a customer. Are you thinking to yourself, oh my goodness, this is going to be bad? Or are you thinking, oh, I can't wait to hear what they have to say? Just be open to that. When someone offers their feedback, and your first response is to make excuses or to explain yourself. Just one way. I won't reiterate. I won't go into that too much. If that's it, you could just say, well, forgive me, and we'll go into that later. Or you disagree or debate them. This is so good. So on one of the rev calls, the early morning rev calls that are about 15 minutes, Trisha gave one on the book, Winning Friends and Influencing People. Now, I've read that book many, many times, but this really popped out to me, because when somebody's giving you information, they might say, oh gosh, I don't like pyramids. Well, I used to just shut that person down and go, oh my gosh, I don't even know what to say. So now I let them just go off and talk about that. And then I'll just say, well, I don't either. I'll agree with them. You can agree with them instead of debating them. So, instead of debating them, another thing is when they're talking about the products, or they say, well, I have this product. I had somebody the other day that I talked with, and come to find out, she was saying I couldn't afford to order these products. Found out a little bit more probing that she was on another product, Dr. G's, with butyric acid. So I was able to explain to her how that one is not going to get absorbed into her body, but ours will, because of the Silox Dex key. So instead of, like in my mind, I'm going, oh my goodness, but I was able to explain that to her because I found out more about what was going on in her life and what she was up to. She was looking for digestive things for her digestive system, but we have the best, don't we? So I was able to explain that to her. So, okay, so there's one. If you shift the blame to someone else, say, oh, the devil made me do it. So that's one way that you might not be approachable. You use the position to silence yourself, to silence them. So I can tell you, I'm pretty good at shutting people down, and I really had to work on that. And there was something in me. It's really never about them. And we'll go into that, not taking things personally. But so what I do sometimes, if I see the conversation going into a negative aspect, I might direct that in a different way now, instead of completely shutting the conversation down, because that's not going to get me anywhere. So that's just a little tip there. This is a big one. If you let yourself feel critical of the person attempting to communicate with you and disqualifying what they're bringing to the table. So that's basically judging. So if you have I can say that I used to have a real cynical and critical, attitude. And, if you're looking at someone or prejudging them, and I don't know how many times I've heard these stories of people that didn't prejudge somebody, and that person turned out to be one of the biggest producers in the company. Or it can be the opposite. If someone looks like they are set financially and they have everything they want in life, think again. You never know what's going on behind closed doors. You never know if that person is on the verge of declaring bankruptcy, especially this day and age. And we offer many solutions to that. So don't prejudge. And that's just another way. You use your emotions to stop the conversation. And again, we'll go back to Peter Drucker, or not Peter Drucker, but David Goldman, who wrote the emotional intelligence. So 20% is due to your IQ, but really being in touch and not letting your emotions run rampant. So it's just not about you. And whatever they say, it's truly, don't take it personally. And that's the next one. Don't take offense or get upset. Don't take things personally. It's really not about you. 100% of the time, it really isn't how people react. It could be something from their past. Just don't react. So, and don't get upset, because it's just never ever really about you. It's just something that's happening in their past or with their life. And then you can ask those clarifying questions. Like if you get upset, it might be something about what they got upset about. And then it's just a big vicious circle. So another one, the last one I'm going to go into is if you leave the conversation without taking ownership or behavior that impacted the other person. Now, sometimes when you're talking to people, you can tell if they're reacting and something that you said, and just apologize. Say, if you don't know what it was, just say, I don't know what I said, I'm really sorry. Or if it was something, you can be, I can be flippant about things. And sometimes I can say things that I didn't mean to. So just apologize. Really important. Just a quick apology. That'll just bring the conversation back to ground zero. And then you can move forward. So that is that. And that's the end of my presentation. I really just those three things: clarifying questions, listening to understand, and being approachable or coachable by your lead support. So three very good things that you can, hone your skills in on. And that's it for today. Thank you.
Great job, Diane. That was awesome.
Oh.
Not only was it very, very entertaining and very informative, you also allowed me to practice my typing skills, because it's almost 2 pages of notes. Of course, it's a lot of it is bullet points, but this is great. And for everyone who didn't know, when we asked Diane to present for this active school, this topic has never been discussed in our active school for what, about 2 years, ever since we had this. And so that's why Diana have so many notes, because this is a relationship business, and building relationships is all it's about, right? And so these are great points to learn by, to live by, to build in an organization by, just like Noemi talked about. And so this is wonderful. Thank you so much for it. I gotta go get that book that you talked about.
You're so welcome.
Yes, so
thanks for asking.
That'll be a great read. But truly, I hope each and every one of you took notes. If not, good thing I recorded this, because I'm pretty sure a lot of you will go back to the recording and you need to take notes then. It's great. I like what you said, when it's not what they say, but why they're saying it. That's so important to understand people. And I think that's why the man above gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. So we need to listen more and speak less,
I
right?
forgot to say that.
But thank you so much for a wonderful presentation.
That
so was welcome. Awesome. You are
Thank you.
Thank
you for those kind words.
Now I want to turn the time over to our wonderful CEO, who opened this active school before we recorded it by talking about hair, or not talking about hair. So we'll leave it at that. But nonetheless, we love having our CEO on the call with us on a Saturday, taking the time out any time or day of the week, time of the day, to spend with each and every one of you. And David Brown will be introducing our next speakers.
Thanks, Sue. And again, good morning, everyone. It's been great. We've been well fed so far. Thank you, Noemi. Thank you, Diane. Noemi has a lot in common with my wife. They both married short, handsome lawyers. Some of you will get that on the way home, but not. We did talk about hair at the beginning of this call, and I've been transfixed by looking at Kelly Clement and those beautiful little girls she's got with her, who have awesome hair, by the way. They are just terrific. It's great. And Diane, you just said we shouldn't judge, but I'm going to judge you, because you did awesome. And I absolutely do not believe that you were ever cynical and judgmental. I've known you. That doesn't describe your personality at all. You mentioned coachable and approachable. And the things that those two words have in common is the last part, the able, which comes from ability, right? And the most important ability probably is availability. And if we're available to people, that's a really important thing. And that leads me into our next speakers. They've been very available. They have very busy schedules. Dr. Maroon and Jeff Bost have been on our advisory board for several years now. Some of you have had the opportunity to hear their presentations. You probably know of their distinguished backgrounds, Dr. Maroon being a world-renowned neurosurgeon, Jeff being a professor and an assistant in thousands of surgeries to Dr. Maroon and a very well-known researcher in his own right. They really provide a credibility that a young company like ours would never normally be able to obtain. But by virtue of their own belief in what we're doing, the products that we have, and the benefits that can be achieved, and really, as they will talk about, the ability that we all have to really take control of many aspects of our lives, and not just simply be, but to act, and not just be acted upon, but to take control of things. That's really what ACTIVZ is all about. So we're really grateful. I believe that Dr. Maroon is on the road and took time out of his busy schedule to be with us today, but it's my honor to present and to introduce Dr. Joe Maroon and Jeff Bost, our next speakers, and thank them in advance for the presentation that they're going to give. Go ahead.
Our very great pleasure, David. It's always, I really enjoy sharing ideas and thoughts with your terrific group of individuals. And Jeff and I have put together a few slides that we would like to share with you, and maybe get a little philosophical as we go along. And Jeff, if you want to start with the first slide, if you've uploaded them.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, I'll go ahead and do that.
So what we're going to discuss is just what you see there, understanding the importance of epigenetics, and also the significance medically and nutritionally of the active products that we will also discuss for you. So as most of you know and realize, we do not live in a healthcare society. We live in a disease care society. You really, for the most part, don't get attention until you're sick. And we've seen this with the pandemic so well, that we're always seemingly catching up with our health. And so we really want to discuss wellness. We want to avoid doctors. We want to avoid medicine. We clearly want to avoid surgery. So it's about, how do we stay well? How do we stay healthy? And it's an active process, and it really is contingent upon making good choices towards a healthy and fulfilling life. And it's a dynamic process, an everyday process, not just once a week or once a month, or giving up meat during Lent or whatever. It's a daily process. It's about being aware and mindful. So it's a choice whether to be well or not. And when I say that, and you look at various data, the annual preventable risk factors that lead to dying prematurely result in close to 2 million deaths annually. And the great majority of these are due to usually years of bad choices in terms of our diet, our exercise, and how we control stress. So when you look at this chart and you look at the left side, which reflects in orange, the intake, which is below the recommended levels for vegetables, fruits, grains, dairy, protein, and oils, good oils, you can see that 40 to 80% of the population in the United States is getting a suboptimal dietary intake of these key nutrients. And in the bottom right, you see what the food manufacturers use in a very prolific fashion to contribute to our illness, to our non-wellness, to our contributing to our inflammation and sickness. Added sugars, saturated fats, and salt. These things taste great. That's why they're in virtually all of the foods made by the manufacturers, who are more intent on selling their products rather than providing healthy nutrition. So why don't we eat healthier? Well, is it too expensive? Particularly with the inflation the way it is now. When you go into a major food store and you see what people, particularly with kids and large families, fill up their shopping bags with, it's Fritos, it's soft drinks, it's crackers, it's processed foods that are full of salt, fats, bad fats, and carbohydrates. So fast food restaurants, some are improving, but for the most part, again, to make it tasteful and tastefully and to make you come back, they can be unhealthy. Skipping meals, unless it's in a prescribed way or a choice in terms of dietary inhibition, is not good. And mislabeled packages is so common in terms of really not telling you all of the hidden ingredients that can be deleterious to our health. So how do healthy choices keep us healthy? And what are healthy choices? And why don't identical twins who genetically are the same die on the same day of the same disease, which you might predict at these relatively close in a situation like this? And we're going to answer that question for you right now. So 20 to 25 years or so ago, the burgeoning science of epigenetics arose. And epigenetics comes from two words: epi, which means above or beyond, and genetics, the code of life that was discovered by Watson and Crick in 1953. So our chromosomes, upon which the genes are located, are like a blueprint. They really don't do much at all until they're acted upon by various factors. And these factors include nutrition, whether or not we exercise, our emotional health, and environmental factors that we'll discuss. So that in this slide, this is a very, very important slide. So you see the 4 epigenetic factors that we can control. These are all choices. So let's look at nutrition. If we eat a Big Mac or a fast food burger from beef in a confined animal feedlot, fed corn from Iowa and injected with antibiotics and also hormones, and then eat an order of French fries with trans fatty acids, salt, and a bottle of soda, which basically has an acid component to it. And also 8 to 10 grams of teaspoons of sugar. These factors, when they go through our liver and into our gut, are going to activate transcription factors on our genes, which tell the genes which of about 100,000 different proteins to make in our body. Now, if you eat what we described, these transcription factors will tell our genes to make inflammatory agents. And what's the common cause of heart disease, Alzheimer's, arthritis, and many of the other diseases of aging? It's inflammation. So if we don't exercise, if our kids sit on the couch and play e-games all day and don't get outside and become sedentary, the same transcription factors lead to inflammatory agents that, again, are very destructive. Polluted air, water, smoking, excess alcohol, drugs, recreational drugs, all turn on the inflammatory genes, and stress, high emotional stress that's unremitting, elevates cortisol levels. And this hormone released by the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, released by our adrenal glands, has a very negative effect, again, on our blood vessels, on our joints, on our skin. So controlling stress is extremely important. In contrast, if we do the right types of dietary intake, use calorie restriction at times, which can be very, very helpful and therapeutic in activating longevity genes, a Mediterranean type diet with the right grains, fiber, fruits, vegetables, lean protein, and polyphenols and nutritional supplements that Jeff is going to discuss in some detail. It's going to activate transcription factors that are anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and anti-cancer, actually. So that, and the same with exercise. If we regularly do aerobic activity with strength and flexibility exercises, it activates a molecule in our brain called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factors. And this compound enhances the formation of new brain cells, new connections at the synaptic junctions of our brain cells, and also enhances neuroplasticity. And of course, avoiding smoking, excess drinking, like we said, and prayer, strong relationships, meditation, spirituality, all are absolutely critical to enhance longevity and reduce disease. Slide. So diet, nutrition, and genes, as you see there, olive oil, lean protein, avocados, nuts, berries, are all the kinds of choices that optimally will enhance our health, our longevity, and our brains in order to process information and think much more clearly. So, Jeff, with that, you can please take the podium and instruct us on the physiology and a little bit of the biochemistry of the products that we're both taking.
Thanks, Dr. Maroon, and thank you, David, and everyone for being here today. Great introduction, and I think one of the key things that Dr. Maroon talks about is the idea of nutrition and how it's really changed and evolved since the caveman days, for example. One of the greatest examples I heard, which is absolutely shocking, is on an average year, our ancestors 20,000 years ago ate about 1 gram to 2 grams of sugar, raw sugar, a year. And now we're up to 150 pounds of sugar a year in America. And what that does epigenetically on turning on genes that are linked to things like diabetes and heart disease and so on is just tremendous. That increase, that percent increase from just a small teaspoonful of sugar to 150 pounds a year really is frightening and is why we're here today, because of the dietary indiscretions. And so many people die of chronic diseases related to their choices. But as Dr. Maroon said, one of the things that was discovered was the idea of epigenetics, the things that we do, the things that we consume, how we act, and our choices, how they affect our health. And Lynx and Optimed both have ingredients which epigenetically can activate genes and cause benefits in health. So, people always say, well, why do I have to exercise? Why do I have to eat right? How does that affect me? Maybe if you don't eat a lot of fats, you say you won't gain fat, but it's actually the sugars that add the most fat. So the idea is through cellular mechanisms, and it's somewhat complicated, but in fact, it isn't, in the sense that what we do, everything we do, consume, can activate genes for positive or negative responses. And this is what Links and Optimed is all about. They're using cutting edge technology, cutting edge supplements that can activate genes on an epigenetic level. So you're wondering why Dr. Maroon and I are here. We love David, but there was other reasons that we became stimulated. One of the things was because of your first product, the Links product, was butyric acid. And Dr. Maroon and I, for many, many years, have worked in neurosurgery, and specifically have taken care of hundreds, perhaps thousands of people with a very serious brain tumor called glioblastoma multiforme. And it's basically an uncurable cancer. It's, we hear day after day of cancer breakthroughs, but unfortunately, this is the one that is very devastating and takes people of all ages. And one of the things that we looked at was the cellular mechanisms of cancers of the brain. And cancers of the brain, like glioblastoma, live on sugar. And the idea of the sugar providing them energy, and our diet, as we know, is full of sugar. How can we eliminate sugar and still provide someone the energy we need? And one of the ways we looked at was to calorie restrict. Calorie restriction lowers the amount of sugar and causes a process called ketosis, where our body begins to make ketones and other energy sources for our body. And this is several papers that we've written on the topic. And it's very difficult to do because our body craves sugar, our brain craves sugar. But if you can switch over ketosis and the idea of the ketogenic diet, which has become more popular, you can perhaps lower the rate of brain cancer development and growth. And this is one of our researches. When we heard about David's Link product, we said, well, perhaps if you could get butyric acid without actually having to starve yourself and go in ketosis, this would be an excellent way to help some of these problems. And we learned more, and we became involved in ACTIVZ. So thank you, David, for that, developing that product, the Links product, which is still with us. This is an example of a very serious brain tumor of a man who had an MRI demonstrating a very large tumor, as you can see at the top. And he was placed on a ketogenic diet. Now, he chose not to have all the treatments that are available after his first surgery. Generally speaking, this tumor type is what I would consider almost completely fatal in all persons by 3 or 4 years after diagnosis. So it's a very serious problem. So his original diagnosis, as you see, is in 2014. He's been on a ketogenic diet since for a very long time, and he's still with us. So it really, whether it's a ketogenic diet, whether it's the power of prayer, we don't know, but this person has still been able to survive primarily by changing his diet, which is a very, very powerful statement. It's a case report. We don't have other reports of this, but it does tell us that there is some power in the idea of alternative energy source using ketones or butyric acid, which is a type of ketone. And as I said, we learned more about shifting our carbohydrate primary diet to a fat diet, because fat can be broken down and be made into ketones and utilized for fuel. Our brain, specifically, the cells in our brain, uses ketone bodies, which butyric acid is, more selectively as far as an energy source than actual sugar. So it's much more efficient, as you can see in the second bullet there, that overall ketone bodies can absorb about 70% better energy than the use of other fueling, than other cells in our body. So it's very important in what we were working with as far as tumor prevention or slowing down tumor growth. Digestively, when you consume butyric acid, it causes significant gut improvements. We don't have a very good gut overall. The idea of the bacteria in our gut, the microbiome providing us nutritions. We all learned probably in early science about the idea of these healthy bacteria extracting vitamins that we need. Well, they aren't going to extract it if we have a poor diet, because a diet supplies the energy to that microbiome that allows it to extract energy and things that we need. So we have a very low energy, most of us have a very low energy digestive tract, specifically in the colon. And for that reason, it makes us have a very difficult time absorbing certain things. There's a high prevalence of digestive disorders, leaky gut, celiac disease, which you know has been a word that's come into the common vernacular because it's so common, leaky gut syndrome. And these things actually are tied to a lot of the allergies that we're seeing in young people. A lot of people have a poor diet, causing them to have allergies because they have leaky gut syndrome. And it's a vicious cycle that our society is really causing an explosion of gut-related problems. Poor diets of fat, salt, sugar, high calories, low fiber, all are causing our gut to have low energy, which causes the probiotics or the bacteria in our colon not to work well. So the epigenetic facts of butyric acid, which is what Link can provide us in the large intestines. And again, our last speaker talked about the specialized delivery system, which gets the butyric acid where it can be beneficial. It's not being broken down in the esophagus. It's not being broken down in the gut. It's not being broken down in the small intestines, but in the large intestines where it can do some benefits. And these are the epigenetic actions that butyric acid has been involved with. It can lower the rate of colon cancers. It has anti-inflammatory effects on obesity and insulin resistance. So how can that all, it's almost like a cookbook of everything good. How does that work? Well, it works in combination with the fact that our microbiome is going to work better if it gets the energy provided by butyric acid, and it functions better. And those cells in the colon can function better and provide the anti-inflammatory effects. They can provide better insulin resistance. They can prevent cardiac disease. So we don't talk about the gut very often, but it has an overwhelming effect throughout our body, including our brain. So it's important to know that this least understood energy source is the primary energy source. Butyric acid and ketone bodies are a primary energy source in our large intestines, and it's been overlooked for forever. And I think one of the reasons it's been overlooked is because our diet, until recently, evolutionarily, was providing that microbiome everything it needed: high fiber and low sugar and all the things that needed to function well. And now we're not seeing that. Our diets are, not in that same type of food that we eat anymore. So butyric acid, in summary, can prevent cancer. This is one of the biggest things that have been discovered, and that's primarily because it's the ability of these cells to function more clearly. The normal the normal colon cells can be functioning more effectively and prevent the onset of early colon cancer. Butyric acid can prevent the onset of new blood vessels that colon cancer cells can attract to themselves. It's called angiogenesis, where new blood vessels are produced during the time of cancer growth. And the butyric acid, because it does strengthen the colon, can prevent this. So overall, there's a strong link to butyric acid relative to lowering the colon cancer rate. And you say to yourself, well, how do we know that? Well, specifically, we know this because you can test for the amount of butyric acid in the colon. There's stool samples that can be done and other ways to find that out. So it's not just us expressing an opinion, and actually that's how it's been studied. And butyric acid has a specific anti-inflammatory effect by suppressing NF-kappa, which is a very powerful inflammatory modulator. It can reduce colon inflammation, which is associated with inflammatory bowel disease. So you see and you hear people taking links who have colon issues. That's improving it. Not only is it improving those issues related to a specific problem, but it's improving the whole body because the colon is working better. And it also, and through that, the last bullet describes exactly how that works. It reduces body-wide inflammation because the colon is working so much better to produce the anti-inflammatory effects. So in summary, the link's benefits through butyric acid is a way of providing energy to our colon cells. I think if that's anything you can take away from this talk is the idea of butyric acid equals energy to our colon cells, and that's important. It decreases inflammation, enhances vitamin absorption. Obviously, the colon cells are working better and provide better absorption of these vitamins. Dr. Maroon talked about brain BDNF, which is also associated with increasing new brain cells. And our neurotransmitters, those little chemicals that link between neurons, like dopamine and serotonin, are also produced in the gut. So these can be enhanced. And there's an association between having a happy gut and a happy brain as far as decreasing the onset of things like depression. And it also has immune benefits that are well known and well documented in having a good colon. So we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about Optimed. You all know about this product. And I think one of the things that, David, over the years you've talked about is the idea that we have inflammation, we have joint pain and other things if we overdo it and, go to the gym and do too much. But what's the idea of silent inflammation and how does that play in a part in our lives? And one of the biggest things that Dr. Maroon referred to in that slide that talked about epigenetics was the idea of everything linking down into inflammation. And inflammation is the genesis or the root cause of so many chronic diseases we have, but we don't feel them. We don't feel our blood vessels getting narrower. We don't feel all the effects of inflammation. We might feel our joint pain relative to arthritis, but we don't feel the onset of Alzheimer's disease and other inflammatory problems. Like the onset of diabetes. So Optimed has the ability to impact a silent inflammation or an inflammation that's throughout our entire body. And it also can help our joints and arthritic pain, but I think the key is the idea of it focusing on silent inflammation. So that's why Optimed is something that you probably want to take every day, not just because you overdid it at the gym, because it's affecting the silent inflammation. And these things, as we talked about, are related to the epigenetic factors that Dr. Maroon talked about, unhealthy diet, stress, chronically elevated blood sugars, pollutions, lack of exercise. These things can result in the chronic heart attacks that we see, stroke, diabetes, that we can avoid by lowering the level of inflammation. And here's the ingredients. These are well-known products, natural products that can lower inflammation. Curcumin or turmeric is a well-known product throughout the world, but the idea of linking boswellia, which is another anti-inflammatory, with turmeric has a synergistic effect, meaning 1 and 1 is more than 2. Adding those together have been shown to have a greater benefit than just individually separated. So it's the idea of that specific ingredient combination having significant benefits. And again, because it's delivered in a way that can bring it to the place that can be absorbed in the body is also important. Most of the time, these products are not brought to the places where they can be absorbed in the body, which is the small intestines. Often they're broken down in the stomach and other parts of the body during digestion. So this is a key benefit to the idea of Optimed providing what is generally known throughout the world as very good anti-inflammatories, but the fact that it's put through these specialized locking mechanisms into the small intestines has a greater benefit. So this is a slide I'm going to quiz you on later, but no, in fact, it's a very complicated slide as far as telling the mechanisms, but these are all epigenetic mechanisms that are studied. And I think there's 500, Dr. Maroon discussed, there might be 500 or more epigenetic factors just activated by curcumin as far as how it can activate the anti-inflammatory response. As you can see from left to right, it talks about the idea of DNA repair, apoptosis, angiogenesis, all of these things that can be beneficial. Because it lowers inflammation, it can reduce cancer and formation of new blood cells that are associated with new cancer and invasion. So it's a complicated side, but it just tells us this is cellular mechanisms that we're talking about, and they're working on a cellular level just the same as when we eat a high-fat diet or some pollution or not exercising are working on a cellular level. And this is a product that I'm much more excited about now this week, David, than I was the week before, because David recently provided us a hot off the press study published this year in January about the genomics product, whose ingredients there you can see listed. We've always known that it has the ability to activate NRF2 and counter oxidative stress, but we didn't know that this study, as you can see, published in January 10th, 2022, was able to actually look at human cells and how they responded. And they saw specifically upregulation of NF2 dependent genes. We saw increased defenses against hydrogen oxide. So hydrogen oxide is one of the worst oxidative stress. It's like the kind that, we think of acids. This is a peroxyl. Basically, it's like drinking hydrogen peroxide in your body. It can destroy cells. And so by countering it, it's a natural chemical produced by cell metabolism. But if it becomes overwhelming, that's when we get oxidative stress. And it basically breaks down our metabolism of breakdown products of cellular metabolism. So by lowering the peroxyl molecule, we're able to prevent oxidative stress. And interestingly, David, I don't know exactly why they tested for it, but also can decrease cellular cholesterol levels, which is something very interesting and not expected. But this study is with human cells that shows increased prevention against oxidative stress, as well as also increasing NF2. So it's a very positive study that I think you should all, David, I'm sure you're going to send copies of this to everyone as far as this study. It's very positive and like I said, hot off the press. Now to switch gears a little bit, the new Aero product, I can tell you specifically or personally from a number of people that that are using it, that it does provide increased energy. There's no doubt about it. Weight loss hopefully will come associated with that. You're being more active physically. But I can tell you on a personal basis, I've had tremendous feedback on this product relative to energy boosting. And it's not a typical coffee type drink, meaning it's not a hard caffeine product that you're going to get jitters and stimulated. And what it does, and this is a picture of Dr. Maroon, I'm jumping around a little bit, but a triathlete, which is what Dr. Maroon does as his side job, burns a tremendous amount of calories. And the reason he does that, he's very active and exercising. But in fact, there's also an ability to burn calories while you're not active, and that's called thermogenesis. And thermogenetics is the idea that certain foods can stimulate increased metabolism to lower the amount to consume more calories as far as what the amount of calories you take in. So that's a thermogenic effect, which we see in exercise. When Dr. Maroon exercises, he needs those calories. But if you're not exercising, you can still obtain some amount of thermogenic effect where your metabolism can be accelerated, if you will. And that's one of the things we've known for a long, long time, that caffeines, and I'm not talking about coffee caffeines, but other caffeines can provide a thermogenic boost. And this is a somewhat complicated slide, but the reason that big X is there at the bottom is that caffeine from coffee can cause a stimulation of the sympathetic nervous system, which is what we know if we were to get frightened and we get tremulous and we get nervous and we get anxious. This is not something that the Aero product does. It uses caffeine that's provided in a different way. Ingredients like guarana, which means it's a slow delivery. It's almost like an IV. It's titrating it and slowly delivering it to the body. And as you can see from the other ones that aren't X'd out, it boosts memory and attention. A person who can have more caffeine before a test that's not making them jittery or nervous can improve their scores on those tests. It can lower appetite, increase alertness, lower inflammation. It boosts neurotransmitters in the brain, dopamine and serotonin. It can alter our metabolism, again, altering it through a thermogenic effect, increasing our rate of calorie burning. So these things are all very positive, and I'm anxious to see what my friends who are using it, if they're going to divulge any calorie loss or weight loss. They may go ahead and do that. They may not. I might just recognize it one day, but I know it's having a positive effect as far as energy boosting. And again, the specialized way these products are brought to where they need to be is very important. And I think our previous speaker spoke to that. So in summary, epigenetics explains how our diet, our physical activity, our environmental exposures to toxins or having a healthy environment, our mental health, our stress influences genes for good or for bad. And the ingredients and actives work through this epigenetic pathway. There's no doubt about it. The science is there. We now know that. And understanding epigenetics gives us the power. And again, I think this is what David talks about a lot, is the choices. We have a power to activate our genes through better choices. So that's what ACTIVZ products can do. That's what they're doing through the power of epigenetics. So Dr. Maroon, would you like to make a few comments? I think you're on mute. Well, does anyone, David, what would you like to do at this point?
You know, Jeff, thank you very much. I think we'll let you off the hook. That was a great presentation. Thank you for you and Dr. Maroon and your participation. You know, in Japanese, when somebody gives a presentation or discussion, we don't say good job, or we'll say thank you. It became, how do we say it, Stu? It really became a lot of study. And for us is kind of the literal translation, but it became, you know, we learned a lot, in other words. And and there are things that you pointed out that frankly I hadn't given a lot of thought to before. But you know, we use the word ACTIVZ and activating intentionally, and when we say we're going to activate, we really mean it. And I really like that slide where you talked about all the genes that are activated through tetrahydrocurcumin and the anti-inflammatory effect. It looks like we have Dr. Maroon back. Dr. Maroon, would you like to give us some closing words? You're on mute. Angie, are you able to take him off mute?
There we go. There. Angie was blocking me. No, that was a terrific presentation, Jeff. Really, I mean, at a level enough that I think anyone can understand it. And the products that we both utilize ourselves, I think work. I mean, they're effective, and the mechanism you outlined was perfect. So I think it's a great seminar. Thank you, David. It's always a pleasure sharing knowledge with you and your team, and we're happy to help any way we can.
Thank you, appreciate it. As I said at the beginning, having both of you associated with ACTIVZ really does provide a level of credibility that frankly we just wouldn't be able to get on our own. And although there was some pretty deep science in this presentation, thank you both for making it understandable for us and direct. And if anybody ever tries to give anyone on this call any type of feedback that, oh, this is all snake oil, this is all, there's nothing to this. I think if you ever worried about whether there is any real science behind our products, those fears have been entirely dispelled. And it really does, it just doesn't just feel good to know that we have these products that frankly everyone needs. I think that, and by the way, I haven't told this I haven't secured this in writing from Jeff as a professor, but I'm pretty sure that all of you that participated today are entitled to at least 4 hours of college credit for this particular presentation. So, and you're well on your way to putting the word doctor in front of your name. But it really has been great. When Dr. Maroon was talking earlier and talking about basically the health crisis, and there really is a health crisis. I know sometimes as we think about, going back to Diane and Noemi's presentations, thinking about, who would we like to invite? Sometimes I think our mind naturally goes to, well, who do we know that's sick, that needs these products? Who do we know that, but really, if you think about it, it's not necessarily a matter of who has outward manifestations of being, really sick. every single person on this earth is suffering from the effects of oxidative stress to some degree or another, silent inflammation to some degree or another. We're all being subjected to environmental pollution. We're all subjected to some degree or another poor dietary choices, and all of those things are having an accumulated effect. And so if we think, well, who do we know that needs this? Who needs this? The answer is pretty much everyone. I want to share something. Stu recognizes this word. To everyone else, it's just a bunch of scribbly lines. But these are two characters that in Japanese mean crisis. And we can talk about, there's a health crisis in the United States and the world. Increasingly, there is a financial crisis as inflation has hit a 40-year high. Gas prices are higher than they've ever been, and people are starting to really feel it in their pocketbook. Now, the interesting thing about this word is it's a combination of two characters. The one on the left means fear. That's one that's used for fear and being scared of something. The one on the right can be translated in a couple of different ways, but one of the meanings of it is opportunity. So you might think, fear and opportunity, how does that meet crisis? Well, if you really think about it, we have people who are fearful of health scares and disease. We have people who are fearful about their family's financial future, and the opportunity is what we have at ACTIVZ to help offset those fears. We have the ability to share with them things that have been proven. They don't have to take our word for it. They can refer to esteemed scientists and researchers who have proven that these things really do work on the genetic level to help your body do what it's already designed to do. And on the same token, the business opportunity that comes with normal, everyday people like all of us to do something else, to take control of our financial future by simply sharing this with other people. And that's really what it boils down to. That's what Diane focused on. That's what Noemi focused on. We're talking about sharing and having something. And we don't usually use the word share with negative things. We don't say, well, I'm happy to report I shared COVID with somebody else. I'm happy to report I shared, so you don't use share with a negative thing. You use word share with positive things. And so when we're talking about everything associated with ACTIVZ, it's about sharing something positive. It reminds me of an experience I had a few years ago. I was in Havasupai, if you know where that is. It's a canyon. It's actually an Indian reservation off the Grand Canyon. And I like to hike. I like to climb things. And we went on a hike about 3 miles from our camp down to something called Beaver Falls. And to get there, and all of a sudden, to get down to the river below, you could basically climb down. You can see the cliff that I'm on. It wasn't an easy climb down, or you could jump. Now, before you jump into something, you should probably make sure that whatever you're jumping into is safe, okay? Fortunately, we had people that were already down there and assured me. I was relying upon people whom I trusted to tell me that the water was deep enough to support my jump from about 65 feet. That's pretty high jump, okay? And I think the reason I share this is that all of us are now part of ACTIVZ. We've not all necessarily jumped in with both feet as much as we really want to get the benefits. We might be in a little bit of a crisis. We might be in a crisis of confidence. Can we really do this? But remember, those words crisis, where fear meets opportunity, is really what we're talking about here with ACTIVZ. You can trust people like Dr. Maroon, like Jeff Bost, like Noemi, like Diane, like many others, now literally tens of thousands of others, who have already tested it. They've jumped into the waters before you. They know that the products work. They know that the business opportunity works. They're getting a check every week, every month. And they know that this is something that really works. You can safely jump into the water. Now, you might say, well, that's a little scary. Well, one thing that happens when you're looking down from a cliff of 60 feet, I'm not afraid of heights, which is ironic considering I'm not very tall myself, but I'm not afraid of heights, okay? And I like to bungee jump. I like to do other things like that. But even when I look down, I'm like, that looks a little scary. But here's what happens. Once you do that, the endorphins kick in, the adrenaline kicks in, and guess what you immediately want to do? You want to do it again. Because it was fun and it was exciting, and I'm sure that Dr. Maroon can relate to that. You know, it's doing an Ironman is not easy, but once he's done it and those endorphins kick in and the adrenaline, it's like, you know, it's overwhelming. Now, I must say, we don't invite all members of our advisory board to provide us pictures without their shirts on, like we do with Dr. Maroon. He can pull it off. But what I can say is that if all of them and all of us followed his advice, and we just jump in. We jump into all of these aspects of our lives that we want to do a little bit better on, whether it be sharing, whether it be taking the products, whether it be actually implementing the things that Noemi and Diane talked about, as opposed to just listening, thinking to ourselves, man, that's great. I really ought to do that. Well, yeah, you know what? We really ought to do that. So instead of, so in closing, if I could just say one thing, instead of just thinking we really ought to do it, let's borrow that phrase from Nike and just do it. Let's actually do these things instead of thinking that it would be good for us to do. Someday I'll do it. Because you know what? The time is never going to be better than it is now. And if you haven't done everything that you'd like to so far, well, guess what? Welcome to the club. We all fall short of our expectations and the things that we'd ultimately like to achieve. But there's no time like today. If you want to go back to what Angie and Noemi talked about and said, I don't know 200 people. Well, guess what? As you're talking to your people that you do know, ask those people, who do you know that needs these health benefits? Who do you know that needs the financial assistance? So that's automatically going to double, triple, you know, exponentially increase the number of people that you ask or that you know and can reach out to just by doing what Diane said and ask certain questions. This is not fake. This is not something that's just snake oil. This is not a get rich quick scheme. It's not a scheme. Okay, what this is a legitimate organization, community of like-minded people comprised of everyone from world-renowned scientists and doctors to people like you and me, scattered around the world in various areas that are simply trying to make the world a little bit better place one day at a time. And guess what? You're doing a remarkable job. So thanks for being with us this morning. It's been great. Thank you, Noemi. Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Dr. Maroon and Jeff. Really appreciate all of you being here. And Stu and Angie, I'll turn it back to you.
Wow, thank you so much, David. Thank you, Dr. Maroon, Jeff, Noemi, and Diane. I don't think there's any more that needs to be said because David just wrapped it up perfectly, eloquently, and I am very content. So David said, you know, the Japanese, when they feel it, yoku dekimashita, yoku benkyou shimashita. I was very, I learned a lot basically, and I studied a lot is what I just said. But I mean, I love active schools and I love our presenters and all those that join us, because this definitely goes, you know, in depth to our business and the tools and the information that we need to build it. And so this is recorded. I did not forget not to record it. And so I am actually looking forward to going back in. And I think I missed some notes with Dr. Maroon's presentation. And so I need to go back and then learn a little bit more about the things that our wonderful product does. But it was said so simply and so eloquently that I'm actually going to use it for my next presentation in Japan. I'm going to translate it. That's how simple it was, that it can be translatable in whatever language we need to have it in. So once again, I am very, very thankful for our presenters today and for each and every one of you for making the time out of your busy Saturday morning to join us this day.